From 1970 to 1995, producer P.J. O'Connell chronicled the diverse lives and stories of rural Pennsylvania. Immersing himself in the world of his subjects, P.J. tirelessly documented the extraordinary complexity of ordinary lives. Now, from the archives of Penn State Public Broadcasting, we present the video-on-demand exclusive series, P.J. O'Connell's Pennsylvania Parade.
I'm P.J. O'Connell for Pennsylvania Parade, and it's a lovely day in rural Pennsylvania. But I have to remind you that things are not always that way. Incest, child molestation, physical and sexual abuse, and other unspeakable crimes occur far too often in our rural cities, towns, and homes. It's a sad fact that most of these abusers are family members or friends, not strangers. And our legal system, which is rightly protective of the rights of an accused individual, is often blindly neglectful of the emotional traumas of the victims. It is left to other agencies, often staffed by volunteers, to provide the information, the advice, and the quiet comforting that is desperately needed, as this 1987 documentary shows so painfully.
Sexual abuse is rape. It's when the monster behind the bushes jumps out at you, grabs you, rips your clothes off, beats you up, and then rapes you, has intercourse. And it's awful, you know, and you're left there for dead. That's the picture I had 4 years ago.
The victim went over to her mother when the mother arrived home after the perpetrator and babysitter had gone and whispered into her mother's ear that whatever his name was humped me.
And then as I got older, I thought, wow, I know I have to go to the bedroom. I know I have to do this. You just know it. So afterwards, I'd say, there's a nice dress in so-and-so's window. So I'd get the dress. And I prostituted myself to my father.
We won the case because of the shock on her face when he started lying. She just went, you know, and everyone saw her do that. And you can, you know, they usually try and say a child is told what to say. Well, you don't tell a child the reaction on their face. And they saw it, and she was real mad when he started lying. And she was 6 years old.
We have the right to grow up in a society where people aren't hurting other people, that you can walk down the streets, that your father, that your brother, that your lover, that your husband is not going to abuse you. If a victim has been assaulted at any time of the day or night, we have people on call who are trained to meet that victim at the hospital, to stay with that victim, say in the case of rape, through a rape examination, to stay right with her.
The workaday world of Rosalie Danchenko is a world of victims. Victims, most often, of society's unspeakable crimes: rape, incest, child molestation, physical and sexual abuse. Victims of these crimes are often in need of help of the most basic, personal kind.
We've been successful in Cambria and Somerset County in doing little things. When you go to a magistrate's office, knowing that there's a corner of his office that you can take a victim to so they're not sitting there face to face with the perpetrator. Where's the bathroom? I mean, that's a little thing, but that's a major thing when you're a victim and you're nervous and you gotta go. Where's the tissues? You know, if I got to cry, can I cry? Is it okay? Who's going to be where and where are they going to be sitting?
Helping with little things is the work of Victim Services Incorporated, an agency that assists victims of crimes in Cambria and Somerset counties in Pennsylvania. When it was founded 4 years ago, Rosalie Danchenko was its first and only employee. Today, she is the executive director with a staff of 6 professionals and over 60 community volunteers.
Becky has an uncle who babysits her. And he's been touching her in her private parts in places that he's not supposed to touch her. And he wants her to touch his private parts. And then he tells her, look, I want you to keep this a secret, and I don't want you to tell anybody about this. But she's going to talk to Danny.
Ann Bezak does community education programs for victim services and spends much of her volunteer time on her knees, in front of audiences of young children.
It's a personal safety program, and children being the trusting people that they are, it's very important for them to know that there are some people who are very willing to betray a trust in a child just by touches.
I just want to be alone. I'm sad. I don't know why I feel sad. I wish all of the sadness would go away.
Becky.
Ann Bezak's partners in personal safety training are 2 puppets, Becky and Danny.
Oh, hi, Becky. What you doing? Do you want to play with me?
I don't know.
What's wrong?
You know my uncle that babysits me?
Oh, yeah. He played ball with me last week. I like him.
I used to like him, but now I am afraid of him.
Well, why are you afraid of him?
I don't know. He does stuff to me that I don't like.
Well, what does he do?
He touches me.
Where does he touch you?
In places.
On your face? Your feet? Where?
You know, my private parts.
Where are your private parts?
My private parts are where my bathing suit goes. You have private parts. That's where your bathing suit goes.
I feel it's been done in very good taste because there were these 2 little friends that talk about these problems, and the little puppet Becky that has this problem finally talks to Danny about it and makes her feel, gee, there is some help for her.
What can I do, Danny? I am mixed up. My uncle is nice to me most of the time, but I do not want to play that game anymore.
Say no. If you don't want to do something because it makes you feel bad, say no.
No.
Becky, look me right in my eye and say no.
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 No! Oh, you know what? That was the nicest no I ever heard. It sounded like a chorus. You all blended in. It was beautiful. Oh, that was very... The more children that are aware that this can and does happen to them, the more they can become assertive and feel that they can do something about it to prevent this. And it's a preventative measure, and I think this is very, very important. All right, Becky and Danny. I'm going to let the girls come up and give you a nice, gentle touch, because it's good to give good touches. And Becky and Danny like good touches, and we all need good touches.
Thank you. That's a good touch.
The presenter is the key, is the linchpin, if you will, to the whole operation. She's essential. And she became a volunteer because someone said to her, this is an organization that's right up your alley, Anne. You would be terrific at this. And I used the example of Becky and Danny in the puppet show because when we go into schools and we go back or asked to...
Donna Fry is Community Education Supervisor for Victim Services Incorporated.
Fourth grader, if they remember the puppet show, they do. They can tell you the names of the puppets and they can tell you what the message was, which says to me that prevention in sexual assault can be done in a straightforward, tasteful, entertaining manner, not scare the kids to death. The message gets across that it's okay to say no to touches that they don't want.
Okay, the mom called me anonymously on Monday, and she started out by I don't know whether this. I don't know whether this is the one I want to talk to. I don't know whether this is the right. That's how she began.
They all start out that. It's like a big
It's not,
pause.
hello, my name is Donna Fry, and I have a kid that was just assaulted. You know, they all kind of...
Donna Fry is also an experienced phone counselor on the Victim Services Hotline. It is experience gained the best way, the hard way.
One of the hardest things for us to do in this office, even though we're used to it and we're trained to do it, is to take a case on the phone, the woman calls and said they have a problem.
The victim went over to her mother when the mother arrived home after the perpetrator and babysitter had gone and whispered into her mother's ear that whatever his name was humped me. Well, the mother said they don't use that kind of terminology. She couldn't have made it up. So she believed her immediately. This mother was fantastic. She did all the right things unknowingly. She believed her. She told her it wasn't her fault and comforted her and said they were going to do something about this.
Sometimes you get a call and you hear nothing but crying for a while. Sometimes you get a call and they say awful, horrendous things, and you're probably the first person that hasn't told them that they're lying, or you're probably the first person that hasn't hung up on them. You're the first person that says, I understand what's happened to you, and it calms them.
And the two kids,
15-year-old sister
and the
and
13-year-old brother were babysitting
a small
7-year-old,
child.
4 and 2.
And the
13-year-old was the perpetrator.
Oh, yuck.
Okay?
We got problems.
Right. The little girl hasn't had too many successes in her life. She's a little slow at school. She hates school. She's had illnesses. And she said to her mother yesterday, "It's okay, Mom. Bad things always happen to me."
Oh, bummer.
My reactions when I get a phone call like that, initially it used to be panic. And then training would take over. And now it's not so much panic as it is a sinking feeling at first that there's another victim.
Sometimes the answering service will give you a name, as they gave Mary. You can say, "Hello, may I speak to Donna, please?" Who is this?
Donna Fry's experiences are one of her best resources when she trains new volunteers in the realities of telephone hotline counseling.
You can say you called this number, 535.
They're given as much information as they would normally get from a hotline call, which is usually first name and a telephone number. And so they must learn to pick up the phone and say, "May I please speak to Mary? This is a friend."
And so I'm dialing her.
You ring, 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 ring.
Hello, Victim Services.
Can you help me? My daddy's killing my mommy. My daddy's going to kill my mommy. Can you help me? Hurry, hurry.
Just a minute. Could you leave the phone now just for a second and get yourself a tissue and then come back on? I don't
have time. My daddy's going to kill my mommy.
It's a rare bird that doesn't get stumped the first time around, because you can read it on paper and you can hear someone talk about it, but you actually have to be on the other end of the phone with your mouth going dry and you can't remember your name, let alone what you're supposed to say to these people.
Okay, now, are you all right? Can you talk?
My daddy, my mommy are in the kitchen and he has a knife and he's going to kill my mom.
The caller is a Victim Services staff member, out of sight behind a screen.
Anymore. How many times did you call them?
Okay, can we stop? This is just overwhelming. Right, Dolores? How did that make you feel, Dolores?
I'm just scared to death.
Overwhelmed.
Yes.
But
I really did not know.
You were on the right track when you were trying to get her distracted and said, "Could you pick up a tissue?" Sometimes you yourself have to get calm and take a few deep breaths and think what to say. Because as you got calmer and didn't say anything, Mary calmed down. It works with an adult victim.
And this particular training, not many people knew what to do. And that makes the trainee feel bad. They think they've flunked the whole course. That's not it. That's to explain to them that all of us get into a situation where perhaps we cannot solve it right then and there. Maybe the phone goes dead. The kid is screaming and all of a sudden there's no connection. And the sad part about it is you may never hear from this family again. And you wonder, could I have done something better? Could I have availed myself of other resources in the community? No, you do the best you possibly can. And sometimes you fail. Most of the time not, though.
Ring, ring. Hello. Hello, this is Lee from Victim... I don't have to use the phone, huh? Hello, this is Lee from Victim Services. You called. Can I do anything for you?
Do you help people that have been raped?
Yes, we do.
Well, I just found out something last night that's... My daughter, who's a teenager, is 6 months pregnant, and we didn't know it until last night. It turns out she was raped by someone that she knew. And I just don't know what to do.
I'm sorry this is happening. I imagine you feel really, well, that's bad about this.
Yes, I'm still so upset. I can't understand why she didn't fight back. I mean, how could you be raped?
Oh, boy. I'm sure your daughter did not want this to happen to her. I know she did not want this to happen to her.
But you knew this guy. How could you call that rape?
There have been a lot of cases where acquaintance rape. And it is not your daughter's fault. It is the guy's fault. He had no right to take advantage of your daughter. Your daughter is the victim.
Well, but now we have another victim, I guess. What are we going to do about this baby?
I'd advise you right now to have your daughter go to a doctor. She should start on some kind of prenatal care. For this baby she is 6 months along, and...
Well, that's what we think. My daughter said something about abortion, but I don't know, that scares me. I guess she's too far along for that. Maybe you suppose this is God's way of telling me that this baby's supposed to be saved, since she didn't tell me until she was 6 months pregnant, and that's too far along now to get an abortion. That maybe that's a sign that we should take that as a sign, maybe.
Well, that is a matter probably up to your faith. As for being God's way of saying that she is too far along.
She wants to finish school, and all kinds of things came up after she talked to me. What if we can't keep this baby? I mean, I don't know how to tell her that. I don't know what to say. I'm her mother. I'm just too upset to think beyond now. Is there any place else that you people can tell me where to go, or someplace she can talk, or I just don't know.
Help me, I quit.
I'm not sure right now who else you can talk to, but I'll certainly find out. I think that the important thing here is that your daughter has told you, and that yes, she's pregnant, and there's another individuals whom we have to consider, but the most important person right now is your daughter. She's experienced a rape. She's lived with that thought for 6 months. She's suffering. She needs love. She needs your support. She needs your hugs. She needs reassurance that she's okay and it's not her fault. We can help you help her in dealing with the rape.
How can you do that?
Be proud. Be very proud that your daughter felt comfortable to talk to you.
Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Wait, come on, I got a phone. I think it's your phone number. Wait a minute. I forgot to ask your income and everything. What's Gina going to do when I have to hand in my forms?
First thing I walk in the office with my coat on, trying to get the door open because the phone's ringing, and I pick it up, and it was pretty much the way it went, except it was just sobbing and crying.
I
all
thought
the way
we'd
through.
do that.
And this call, really, I mean, it just brought everything you can think of to mind. I mean, the stepfather is upset he wants to kill the kid. You can offer an advocate for him or someone to talk to, an advocate for the mother, options for the pregnancy, dealing with the rape. And it just really, your head's, once you get going and thoughts start coming, but it takes a little while.
I must say, Lee, you did an admirable job when I threw that this is God's way, because they did that. That was an actual line this morning. And you hesitated, but you said, if that is your faith.
It's their choice.
Yes.
Yeah. We don't interfere with their beliefs.
If that made you feel better, if that's your faith, then that was really good. I turned to Jim, I said,
You know, why is Donna Fry in this business?
Oh, I've thought about that, and I'm not sure I should tell you why I'm in this business. I think I have to be very careful here. I think Donna Fry is in this business because I was looking for something worthwhile to do at the particular time in my life that I saw this being advertised. Also, that sexual abuse touched my family, and we didn't know what to do.
You know, lots of times, you know, I talk about you don't think you're a victim, or you know, it happens to everybody. When I was working, I had a job. And I was very young. I was 17 or 18 years old, out of high school, and I worked in a place that was in the basement. And this one man kept coming in and talking real nice to me. I can remember the time when he pushed me up against the wall and tried to kiss me and held me very tight. That now, I know, was sexual abuse.
I was raised to believe that people are good. Bad things don't happen to people who obey all the rules. To respect authority, that all adults, especially those that you know and are in your own family, are kind and good, and they should be trusted.
So now I say, I was a victim of that man who held me up against that wall and tried to kiss me against my will. But until I've been involved in this business, I never thought I was a victim. You know, in fact, I thought I did something wrong.
I probably held on to the myth far longer than most other people. The myth being that child sexual abusers are dirty old men that stand in raincoats and are waiting to grab kids from behind a bush.
You know, I did something to make this guy want to do this because I'm a real friendly person. But now I know that's not true. It was that person's responsibility.
When it touched our family, I realized that I was wrong, that it can happen to anyone. Abusers and victims are not a separate entity that sit over there in the corner while the rest of us sit here. Victims and abusers are you and me.
You know, one of the things that I learned when I was growing up is, gee, Rosalie, if ever you're in any kind of trouble, you go right to the police officer, and they're your friend, and they're going to help you solve your problem, and they're going to give you the help that you need. Well, as I got a little bit older, I would hear things like, well, once the criminal is caught, they take him to see the judge, and when the judge finds out he's guilty, he slams down this big hammer, goes to jail, and everybody lives happily ever after. Well, I received all that as I was growing up, but the thing that was not told to me was that there are a lot of buts. Victims don't understand those buts. They're hurting. They want justice. My agency, Victim Services, works with the victims to help them understand the buts.
I'll tell you what, the way I feel, the day that I found out, if she wouldn't have stopped me, he wouldn't be around today. And I don't know what I'd do to him if I see him on the street.
Well, we both realize that that's not the way to resolve it.
I know.
That's not going to help you. It's not going to help your daughter.
Yeah, but you put yourself in my shoes.
I know emotionally it would...
To a father and mother faced with the molestation of their child, the criminal justice system sometimes presents a great many buts. At this meeting with the Cambria County District Attorney, The family's feelings of anger and rage are met with words of caution. We know how you feel, but...
We find that's normal reaction for fathers and mothers to want to go out and strangle the son of a gun who's done this. But then it makes the victim feel more guilty. Like, I wish I would have never told anybody, because if I wouldn't have told anybody, none of this confusion would be going on. Is that how you feel? Mm-hmm. And then it just makes you feel like heck.
Well, the sad part is, I hope you don't mind me saying this.
If you don't, I will say.
During the molestation, they had lost their only son and brother. So I think the hardest part is this has brought back all those sad memories that they've had to go through one time.
Victim Services volunteer Jane Golden was assigned to this case as soon as it came to official attention. At that time, the molestation, by a friend of the family, had been concealed by the victim for almost 4 years.
Her brother was killed a few months before this started going on. She knew that her parents were hurt enough over the death, and she basically said that she did not tell because of that reason, and also because the perpetrator did threaten her. And then she had told one of her sisters, who said, "Keep your mouth shut, Mom and Dad really don't need this." And then she told her boyfriend, who said, "I really think you should get help." And he made all the phone calls. He called Childline and got a hold of Children and Youth. And he took her up to the Evansburg office, and she told her story.
It looks like you want to say something else.
He wants the
Go ahead.
He's just really
Believe me.
uptight and upset with all this. I mean, he lost his job, we lost our son, our daughter was molested. There's not much more we can take, and the continuations just puts more pressure and more stress on the whole family.
We're going to push this as close to the top of the list as we can, so that we, if possible, can get this behind us this term.
Okay, I appreciate that. The continuations is too hard to keep going through.
It's a year, probably, until this. And it was months before even the preliminary hearing came up. So this was really, I mean, the time span that they went through was terrible. I think that is so cruel. It's another victimization in itself, not to be able, they can't go on with their life until they put this behind them. It's a process that you have to go through, that they have to go through, but they really can't go on with their life until it's behind them.
2 weeks later, Jane Golden and the family she was assisting were back at the Cambria County Courthouse, hoping the case would finally be resolved. The victim, her parents, and other members of the family were finding out that justice requires patience.
They were all anxious. It was just like, let's get it over with. Let's do it and get it over with. And it was hard sitting there waiting and stalling around, you know. They were anxious. They wanted it over with. They wanted him punished.
And I'm still been pushing for today, all right? When we get there, if the defense attorney comes in and says, "I'm not ready, I want to continue," then we'll have an argument on the continuance. And then
Assistant District Attorney Tony Renee Anderson was prosecuting the daughter's case.
Because they want to protect the rights of everyone. They don't want to prejudice the defendant. Okay, it's usually continued. In this case, they don't want to prejudice you either because of the threats. But we'll just have to let that up to the judge if it comes down to that. Okay.
Now they're going to argue this in front of the judge not to continue it.
I just have to wait and see if this attorney had enough nerve to say, "Do you want me to tell you what he did to your daughter? Do you want to know the charges you have, what he did to your daughter?" And I said, "No." I mean, that's not fair. I mean, we abide by wishes. And she has stated she'll go all the way as long as we're not in that courtroom to hear what happened to her. And I said,
I don't know if there's any words to explain what they were going through. I think it was hardest on the mother. She was really the one. Her family is falling apart. Her marriage is falling apart over this. Her two sisters are saying, "You're crazy for going through this. Don't do it." And the father was so angry then, oh, I don't know what would have happened to him. He was the biggest worry, I think, through this, because he said, "We will do it your way the first way. If it doesn't work, I will do it my way." And I think he had very, very typical feelings of a father who loves his child, and, you know, after hearing what happened and not even knowing the details. and then they called the little girl's parents in. We didn't know what that was. They said to me, what's going on? So I said, I really don't know. It could be a plea bargain. Well, when they came out, of course, that's what it was, but they had left this up to their daughter to make the decision of whether to plea bargain or not. So then they called her in, and I went in with her.
They want us to plea bargain, and he has no prior record. They said he might get probation, or he might get 6 years if we can prove that he bothered her. Don't they think that child has gone, you know, she's gone through a hell. She's come a long way. She did all this on her own, come forward, went to the authorities for help, and now they want to plea bargain and let him walk. Bullshit. He did it, he deserves to pay. The law don't care about the victims. They care about the ones that commit the crime. They're the ones that get all the protection. They have all these rights, but what about the victims' rights?
And her choice was to go with a plea bargain of indecent assault and corruption of the moral of a minor, or go through with the court. She had to make the decision herself. She said, I feel that he should get punished for more than that. He did more to me than just that. So she decided, yes, we were going to go to court. Well, she said in there she feels like she's a very, here's the word she used, credible witness. She said, and I'm just, you know, she felt that seeing her in a preliminary hearing, she's very credible. So we have that, but, you know, she said, but he can walk free. That's a chance we're taking. Right.
Because he has no prior record, he can walk free. That's not fair. I mean, the law isn't for the victims. They're for the ones that commit the crimes. That's my opinion.
That way.
I don't give a shit what they say. He's not goddamn only walking. Like I told them in here, they might have taken me to goddamn jail now.
Determined, and I think it's good for her to be able to, she's been wanting to do this.
Two weeks later, the trial was held.
The parents, the whole time, were sitting outside. The little girl requested her mother and father not be in there. These parents are out there going crazy. It was brought up before the judge made his decision, said, why isn't the parents in here? Why weren't they put on the stand to verify where this child was? When she was molested, where were they? Why was she alone so much? And he was very angry about it. He also said, I do believe this child. I think she's telling the truth, but he said, I have 11 or 12 people that said, character witnesses that say he was not in this home at the time. So he had he said not guilty. And it was awful. It was really an awful experience. That little girl just screamed and cried and said, I can't believe he's walking out of here. And she knew in the beginning, I made sure, I said, you realize you had a choice of a plea bargain or go through with it. You knew that. There was a chance that he could walk, and he did. This little girl did make the comment to me, why do you encourage kids to go through with this when you know this is going to happen? I said, first of all, we don't know it's going to happen. Second of all, it doesn't always come out like that. Sometimes we get everything that we go in for. And I said, we can't stop trying. That's not going to solve this problem.
I even think in this case, the judge says, I believe you, but there was not enough evidence to find the defendant guilty. Families and victims and public don't understand what that means. You know, don't understand, didn't find enough evidence. Well, it's happened to me, and I know it's happened, and my family knows, and victim services know. Why don't you know? The defendant, if he doesn't like what's going on, he can take it higher. You know, he can go higher. But too bad for the victim. If she doesn't like what's happened, she can't take it higher. You know, there's no next step. You know, like, where's the appeal? And in that respect, yeah, that family's right. You know, the defendant has all the rights. When does the victims get right?
But it was a very, very hard case for me to walk out of there and know that he didn't get anything, and to see the pain that those people went through when they walked out of there. It was really, really sad.
Funding is interesting. Funding is never enough. When I was 4 years ago, I knew every victim, their dog, their cat, their mother, their grandfather. Now I'm turning into a boring administrator. And I worry about money a lot. Only 87 community eds, and we thought we did 93.
Rosalie Danchenko's world has grown more complicated. She does not worry about victims less, but about other things more.
We're inundated with paperwork, and every time we do anything, we have to document so that the people that give us the money can justify that they're given the money and it's going to good use. It's real different from the way the agency first was 4 years ago almost.
We've gotten a lot of calls and new clients.
Victim Services Incorporated receives almost a quarter of its funding from PCAR, the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape, an agency that administers state and federal contracts for abuse prevention and victim assistance programs. And a statewide meeting reveals similar concerns throughout the state.
I am literally afraid sometimes to go out and do any advertisement, because what that means is that within 24 hours the phone starts ringing and doesn't stop.
It's fairly startling when you think about in one county having 350 clients out there now, currently, on a waiting list.
So I really think if the state's going to say it's important to take kids who've been abused and provide them treatment so that they can recover, then they've got to put the bucks in there so that the kids can in fact recover. Because we all know that just the crisis intervention is not going to get them where they need to go.
I'm at the breaking point, and all of my staff are the same way. How are we going to meet this demand? We've almost seen as many victims in March as we've seen the very first year of operation in 1983. And there's no end in sight. You had 6 rapes in one weekend, 11 in March. It's unbelievable. And who cares? We seem to be like, to me, I think we are the only people in the state that care about this whole issue. It's like, I don't want to hear about it. And I for one, am feeling very angry and want to just, you know, hit somebody. No, but I just feel very angry that it doesn't seem as though anybody cares.
We outlined to the department what we would be able to do with a certain amount of money and the amount of money that we would need in order to sustain the programs that we now
One of PCAR's important activities is lobbying for more funds. In this case, a state capitol news conference was aimed at the appropriations committees of the Pennsylvania House and Senate.
The money issue makes us feel like victims. You know, there shouldn't be all this red tape, and it's just so frustrating when you know what has to be done, and then you spend 6 months out of the year fighting like the devil to get funding.
As the news conference ended, Danchenko encountered a familiar face, Representative John Wozniak, who represents her home district in the state legislature.
I got your letter.
What I am offering to you in that letter is an alternative for your consideration.
And I'm going to take a look at that, because you know, that $2 million or whatever they have, $2.5 million for the children.
Okay. Now you have to think that what we are doing in victim services, we are providing services to children who do not
Could there be a way? See, one of the problems I have with the social services, we start creating branches, and you have one does this, and one does this, and one does this, and one does this, and they all want to, all good and, you know, social things, but then I start seeing them overlapping, and every year they all want money. Can we condense these down into, instead of having 5, could we have 3? You know, is there a possibility? You can see what I mean, and it's a real problem because everybody wants.
I know what you're saying.
And it's a, you know, I've got a concern that, you know, we're just starting to throw money out there because it's good, noble causes, but it's overlapping and it's not doing what it's supposed to do in an efficient manner.
Indeed, you're right. There is a duplication, but that cannot be avoided because although we each serve the same client, there is a specified service with which we all do.
They all do this, but then the other ones do these things. Okay. All right.
And you think, well, don't you understand how important this is? Don't you understand how many people are hurting? And you're saying, well, so many other people are asking for money? But that's because we're consumed with this issue. And there is no other issues that are important to us in rape crisis other than what's going on with our victims.
People don't know what to expect. They don't know how to act. They don't know what to say or how to respond. But the one thing that they all have in common is that they were sexually molested when they were children. Because our group is called ASAC, Adults Sexually Assaulted as Children. So we know why they're
Marty Kozar is a retired counselor and social worker who volunteers at Victim Services. She is training new volunteer facilitators for the self-help groups the agency conducts for adult victims of childhood sexual abuse.
It would be wise to kind of direct them towards this molestation so that the one person might say, well, I was sexually molested by my father from the age of 6 to 12. Another might say, my brother molested me when I was 13 years old for a period of 2 years. You're going to hear all
the adult victim of childhood abuse has a very special set of needs, not self-protection or the punishment of a perpetrator, but the resolution of deep personal feelings of guilt, shame, anger, and rage.
They were victims. There was a victim in one of our groups that had been sexually assaulted as a child, and it had been repressed for many, many years. And her next-door neighbor exposed himself to her. And it was the post-traumatic stress syndrome. This person, this victim, experienced the same horror and feeling that she had as a 4-year-old. It was run and hide, and who do I tell, and what's anyone going to do to me? It took that person 30 years for actually this post-stress syndrome to crop up, but it did crop up because of the experience. It was the same emotion was experienced all over again, and at that point, this victim went into therapy and into a group.
I know, I was scared to death the first time I came in.
Oh, I was petrified.
What was your reaction after the first group? What did you feel?
I was not coming back.
That's a universal feeling.
I was back.
The first group that I facilitated of adult women who were sexually assaulted, there were 10 in the group. And they came in utter shock to think that there were 9 other people sitting around the room that had shared the same type of experience, because never in their lives had they been able to talk about this to anyone else.
And you've been in the group for a year now, and we want to tell Tom what's happened to us after a year in self-help. And if anyone would
a local newspaper reporter has been invited to the first anniversary meeting of Marty Kozar's self-help group to hear about problems and progress.
A year ago, I don't know, I was always crying all the time. I wasn't any good for anybody. And then after coming here with these other people, I feel better about myself, and I also was able to confront my father, and something good has come out of that. We have a better relationship now. He's admitted that what he did was wrong. I tried confronting my brothers. They also abused me, but they were pretty negative about it, and as far as that, I was able to just sort of cut off my relationship with them and not be tortured by it so much.
Like with the drugs, I still drink, but I can drink and not get totally blasted. And I feel a lot better about myself, and just knowing that there was somebody else that went through the same thing. We shared a lot of the same thoughts about ourselves, the low self-esteem. I didn't like myself, and I took my dislike of myself out on the people I loved that were around me. But for myself, it's just made me
feel better about myself, and that improves my whole outlook with everyone.
You know, I don't have really anything to do with my family. You know, just like because you told, our reputation was ruined. And the day that they took my dad away, my one brother asked me, well, why did you do it? And I said, I had to, or he'd beat me. Well, you deserve beat anyway, because you're a whore. Mm-hmm. You know.
A year ago, I was so depressed I could cry endlessly, hours on end, and I didn't have no idea why. I couldn't go out of the house by myself. My husband had to go with me. Now, I've had the courage to face my mother, which I've never done before. And just about 2 weeks ago, I wrote my father a letter. And I think after writing the letter, it seemed to give me more power back. It put me in more control now. Instead of him being in control of me, I'm in control of my own body now.
Some people don't feel that you need to confront your perpetrator, but in these two cases where they did, it was very successful. At least the feelings they had were very successful. And it's almost like they're not victimizing you anymore. The perpetrator is no longer able to victimize you because they seem to have the victim in their power until they are confronted. So we will share those letters. Do you have your copies?
Mm-hmm. All the nights when you came into my bedroom when Mom was asleep, all the times when you said you needed help on the car or help in the woods, they were only excuses to get me alone away from Mom and the other kids. Of course, there were times when you would do nice things for me, like taking me for ice cream or letting me drive the car, but you always seemed to want something in return. I'll never be able to tell you how many times I went to bed crying my eyes out because I wanted a dad to love me like a dad should love a little girl, and not the way a man loves a woman. I know I don't have to go into detail about this because I'm sure your memory is as good as mine. Please do me a favor and not react to this letter right away until you've had time to think about it. I don't want to hear reasons or denial. What I really need from you now is for you to admit it, if not to anyone else, at least to yourself and hopefully me, that what you did was wrong and that you are even a little bit sorry it did. People are always saying they can't understand how a person could still love someone after they've been sexually abused by them. Well, I'm not sure either, but I do. Don't be afraid to talk to Mom about this because she already knows all about it. I've told her this summer.
I think it's pretty obvious how emotional these are and really how different they really are too.
I'm not even sure when the incest started. All I know is that the first thing I remember of my life is me in bed with you and you telling me that what you were doing to me was normal. It wasn't normal, and it sure as hell wasn't my fault. I still don't understand how you could have done that to me. No one but another victim can imagine the negative feelings I've had to deal with all my life because of you and your abuse. The feeling that I was bad to have caused my father, a person I loved and admired so much, to want to do something so horrible to me. I really did love you once, and at times I would get depressed because I realized that you never loved me, but not anymore. I've accepted who you are, and I know that you aren't capable of truly loving anyone. I called you once and asked you why you had abused me. I need a Kleenex. Thanks. You said because I was your daughter and you could do with me as you pleased. You were so wrong. No one can own another person. You abused me because it made you feel powerful and in control. We sure fooled everyone, didn't we? Everyone knew I was your favorite child, but no one had any idea how I had to perform in the bedroom to keep your favoritism. I would never wish my childhood on anyone. You took my childhood, my innocence, and my body away from me. I never knew that my body belonged to me and that I had the right to tell you no. Even as I got older and started telling you no, it still didn't do any good until I threatened to kill you, and I honestly would have at a time of my life. Luckily, I realized that you weren't worth it.
My objective in writing and more importantly mailing this to you is to tell you that you were wrong and it was your fault and not mine. I could have let the guilt I carried around for so long destroy me, but I didn't. I'm a fighter and I'm also lucky to have the love and support of family and friends. I'm also enclosing a copy of an interview I gave with some other survivors. I thought you'd like to read about yourself in print. I'm sure you can figure out which ones are us.
One question. Do you feel that relief?
I felt fantastic. I went home and cracked a beer. It was in the afternoon.
We got a half hour yet before we crack it open.
I celebrated.
I hurt for these victims. It gives you such a heavy feeling to think that a child's been robbed of her childhood because of some man. It's a hurt that's really hard to describe because you hurt for them so badly and you want to embrace them and say it wasn't your fault and it's okay.
I know that was tough. You were great. You were really great.
All of the volunteers who have ever walked through the doors of our office have become a part of our victim services family. All of you are special to me, and each of you have inspired me in some special way. Mary Louise, you have...
The annual Volunteers Dinner of Victim Services Incorporated, an occasion for recognition and reflection.
I can compare it to the volunteers who have worked with victim services, who have worked with their first victim or did their first community education program.
I get so much satisfaction out of working with these people and just being their friend and listening to them when they call on the phone and in between meetings they need to talk to someone.
In your sharing, you have given hope and strength to our victims to carry on. And all of you who are volunteers are my strength, and you are my inspiration.
Why do I stay? Sometimes I wonder that myself after this last case because it was really, really hard, but I just know we can't give up.
Miss Ann!
It reads, presented to Ann Bizak by Victim Services Incorporated, April 29th, 1987. Stop it.
Why do I do this? It's a very important thing to do this, and I really enjoy it because I just think these children are so dear and so loving and so nice, and I just want them to be safe the whole time they're growing up.
For outstanding volunteer efforts in delivery of community educational programs. And I had the loveliest speech all prepared, but I'll be damned if I can do it.
I don't know, we toss around words here in the office about why are we still doing this. And all of us, sometimes with more regularity than others, think this is going to be the last day, I can't take any more of this. I don't want to talk to another victim. I don't want to do another community ed. I don't want people to pop out of the woodwork and tell me they're victims. And then we get up the next morning and have our coffee and go off to do community eds.
Terrific. I'm telling you, people are rare, honest to God. I knew God dragged me to this victim service. I know He did.
Sometimes I think I'm obsessed. I really do. It gives me such great satisfaction. It has helped me grow personally. It's enriched me professionally. I love it. I love the people that I meet. I love knowing that the victims are getting help. I like the contact with victims.
Yeah, right. And the people are, I mean, you don't find these kind of people everywhere.
Our work with Victim Services Incorporated in making this documentary was painful but rewarding. Those tears are tough. But so were the volunteers and staff members at Victim Services, as they continued to get up and go on about the work of helping a continuing procession of victims. We observed that work and brought to you examples of real helping and real healing. Producing this documentary was not always very much fun, but it was as rewarding, perhaps, as any we have done here at Penn State Public Broadcasting in the past 25 years. And what of our stars? Ann Bezak is still in show business, along with her puppets, Becky and Danny, still volunteering to do personal safety presentations for children in the area. Donna Fry retired from Victim Services and then joined a help center for domestic violence victims, where she helped develop an audience participation psychodrama to show the generational nature of domestic violence. Then she retired again, for good, maybe. Jane Golden also left Victim Services. As her children got to college age, she needed a job. She credits her volunteer work with helping her to grow as a person, but felt burned out after 5 years of helping others. Marty Kozar has also left, but she continues her volunteer work doing peer counseling for senior citizens with another social agency in the area. And Rosalie Danchenko has also left. She is now State Director for Neighbors Who Care, a helping organization that provides churches with information and advice on how to help victims. After 12 years, it was time for a new challenge. And finally, a small toot on our own horn. The Victim's World, which you've just seen, is still being used as a training film for abuse and rape counselors across Pennsylvania. The documentary producers here at Penn State Public Broadcasting are pleased and proud. For Pennsylvania Parade, I'm P.J. O'Connell.